It's Jeroen from Salesforce, and today I'll cover email workflows, what they are, how to set one up, and how to analyze the results once it's running. Let's get started. An email workflow is one or several emails sent to an audience, one after another, based on the rules you define, also sometimes called an email sequence or a drip campaign. There are two ways to create one, from the blue plus sign or by going to the workflows page and clicking Create Workflow at the top right. I recommend this last option as it makes it easier to fully set up the workflow from the very beginning. For this video, I will show you an existing workflow. This one is here called Podcast Opportunities. No matter how you start, you'll choose your audience using the contact filter in Enter If. Here, you set the filters that determine which contacts enter the workflow. For example, all contacts with a certain tag, but it could also be all contacts with opportunities in the qualified stage of your pipeline, with whom you haven't had contact or email in 10 days. Once a contact matches your filters, they enter the workflow with the status entered. Alternatively, if you're adding contacts to the workflow one by one, for instance, from the LinkedIn sidebar, you can use Select Individual Contacts. Contacts in a workflow move through 4 statuses. Entered means they've just matched your filters and are now in the workflow until they exit. In means they're actively moving through the email steps. Exited means they're no longer in the workflow and won't receive further emails. And met goal means they achieved the goal you set and exited successfully. You can set a goal by using the drop-down in the goal field at the top of the workflow configuration. A goal is what you want the contact to do as they move through the workflow. This could be reply to any email, click any email, open any email, or you can choose not to set a goal at all. When a contact meets the goal, they exit immediately and won't receive any further email steps. In short, if you want to keep emailing until someone replies, you set the goal to contact replies to any email. This is also the default. If it's enough for you that they open or click an email, you can set the goal to one of those instead. And if you want to keep sending emails regardless of what happens, set no specific goal. A contact exits a workflow for one of 4 reasons. They meet the goal you've set, an email sent to them hard bounces, they unsubscribe, or they haven't moved to the next step within a certain number of days. This last rule ensures no one gets stuck in the workflow forever if they never meet the conditions to progress to the next step. For example, if the goal is opening an email, but they never open it, or if step 2 is triggered by clicking step 1, but they never click it, then you should decide exactly how many days of inactivity should trigger this exit right here. And I've selected 30 days here, but it should at least be longer than the longest delay between email steps. You'll also find a few extra configuration options. You can, for instance, set the workflow as one-time or continuous. Checking email contacts or messages filter or selection in the future too makes it continuous, meaning it will also apply to any new contacts who match your filter or selection down the line. Leaving it unchecked makes it a one-time workflow, applying only to contacts who match at the moment you set the workflow live. You can also schedule when a workflow starts. For example, you can schedule it to start in 3 days. And this means that contacts will begin entering after that delay, provided they still match your filters at that point. If instead you want to delay between when a contact matches your filter and when the first email actually sends, then you can add that delay directly on the first email step. You can also set a sending schedule if you only want emails to go out on certain days or during certain hours. By default, Salesforce sends emails during business hours on business days. Usually, it's good to keep this setting as it is, but what you definitely shouldn't do is define a very narrow sending schedule like 9 to 11 on Thursday, because your emails will only be able to go out within this narrow window every week. It's important to understand that Salesforce automatically spreads out the emails it sends throughout the selected days and hours. And how many emails it sends out per day and per hour can be changed in settings, email settings, and per email address you can set quota. We recommend keeping the settings as it is or even lowering them so you play it safe and avoid hitting the spam folder. The more emails you send, the more likely you are to go into spam. Multi-step workflows are available on the Pro plan. As you add more steps, you can trigger each one based on rules. Whether a contact has or hasn't replied to a previous step, whether they have opened or haven't opened or clicked it, or simply once the previous email was sent. For example, you might trigger an email to send 3 days after step 1 hasn't been opened, meaning it goes out 3 days after the first email if the contact still hasn't opened it. You may notice that some options in the trigger dropdown are grayed out, marked exit reason. That's because you've set that option as the workflow goal. And since contacts exit as soon as they meet the goal, they never actually reach a step triggered by it. On each email, you can also choose to send it as a reply or not, which then adds re to the subject line and keeps in the same thread as the previous email, a good way to make follow-ups feel more natural. You can also toggle email tracking and an unsubscribe link for each step using the checkboxes in the bottom left. Composing an email is easy. You can just type up an email the way you normally do it. You can use merge fields to personalize it. You can ask AI to improve the email or write the email altogether, and you can view and edit the HTML version. Since every contact moves through the 4 statuses I mentioned earlier, you'll find analytics for each one directly on the workflow. Who entered, who's currently in it, who has exited, and who met the goal. You can export any of these lists, or you can even start a new workflow directly from one of them. Also, if you see a contact that has accidentally exited, you can re-enter them in the workflow here, or the opposite. Each email step also has its own analytics. You can access it simply by clicking the percentage on any step to see the underlying list. Total is everyone expected to receive the step. Sent is everyone it was actually sent to. Interacted shows who has or hasn't opened or clicked the email. And you can switch between those here at the top right. Replied shows who has replied. And there also you can switch the drop down to see who hasn't. And failed shows anyone who didn't receive the email or unsubscribed, whether due to an invalid email address or a bounce. You can filter down to any specific list using the drop down in the top right. That's everything I have for you on email workflows today. There's a lot of powerful things you can build with this feature, and we're super excited to see what you set up. If you have questions or want to brainstorm ideas, reach out to us on the chat. Happy emailing!